Hello, good afternoon, Indiana. Welcome back. I'm Scott Aaron Rogers, and here with me today is Mad Voters. Katie Rector. Katie, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us on, Scott.
So, once again, this week, we are going to take a look at legislation passing through the Indiana Statehouse while our legislature is in session here. Boy, only a few weeks to go. This thing is just flying right on by, isn't it?
Yes, it is. We are watching because here by the end of the month, they're planning to wrap up. And so we're seeing bills getting passed out of committee, going to the floor for, their final amendments and vote. And then the last week or so, we'll see everything go back to where it was originally. And more changes may still come at that stage as well. But it's going to be pedal to the metal for the next few weeks.
Fantastic.
We got lots of updates today.
Yes, a lot to get to today. Before we get into them really deep, for folks who are joining us here for the very first time or haven't been around for a while, we are going to be going through these bills on the Mad Voters Bill Tracker at madvoters.org. Why don't you tell the folks about your fantastic, indispensable organization?
Thank you. So Mad Voters is an Indiana nonprofit. We focus on empowering civic engagement through education, outreach, and advocacy. And so one of our big initiatives right now is bill tracking, all at the state level. So we've got an online bill tracker tool. It's mobile friendly. You can also access it through the desktop. And it'll tell you the current status of the bill, who wrote it, what it means, what's happening next with the bill, if it's scheduled for a hearing, if you can testify on that bill, all kinds of stuff. So we look at the bills from the perspective of, does it impact one of our core values, healthcare, education, economics, community, or democracy? And if it does, we put it on our tracker. So right now you can go on there and check out the current status of lots of bills that are moving through the State House. So today, we're going to kind of go through some of the good news, the bad news, and then what to expect this next week at the State House. As of what we know now, the schedules change every day. So what I tell you now is what I know for the next couple days at the State House. But of course, check the bill tracker because it will change even after tomorrow.
Yeah, it moves fast, and you guys do a great job keeping this thing up to
Thank
date.
you.
Yeah, it's really indispensable work. I couldn't do a lot of what I do without it. And it's a valuable service that the people of Indiana desperately need. It's you don't find this information out there a lot. The mainstream media might mention some of these things in passing. They don't go deep. They don't really explain the process a lot. So I am so glad we have you here. And what at the centering this entire sort of project that we're doing here this week is bringing in the voters, right? And constituents and telling people how to get a hold of their representatives if one of these bills especially catches their eye, affects them personally. You have a good story to tell. That's how we make change, by telling our stories to our representatives.
Yeah, thank you. And we're just really happy to be able to be in that space and provide that service, because it's a network of different people and organizations doing this important work, and we all are contributing something really, really important. And I think that shows. I mean, we just finished candidate filing for the elections later this year and broke some incredible records in terms of filling the ballot, more choice on the ballot this year. And I think that's going to help turnout. And I think we have the opportunity to see some much needed change at the ballot.
We were talking about that on the Sunday morning show, Who's Left This Week, just a couple hours ago with Michelle Higgs from the Indiana Rural Summit. And all 25 state Senate seats are being contested this year for the first time since like 1974. There's a lot of state house seats. I think Democrats are, we're nonpartisan organization here. We don't favor one party over the other, but it's good to see all of these seats being contested.
Absolutely, yes.
Democrats especially have not done a good job about contesting seats up and down all across the state at the State House level for sure the last several cycles, and I think they've got more than 90%.
Yes, I think like 92 is what I just recently saw. So that's huge.
That's fantastic news. Just, again, not picking sides. It's good for democracy to have options.
Yep.
So, Situate us, Katie. Tell us where we are in the session before we dig into these bills. I know there were the calendar got messed up. Number one,
Mhm.
December with the redistricting fight, and then we had a snowstorm go through and knock us for a loop for at least a day there.
Yep.
We just kind of turned the corner and had crossover. That's done, correct?
hmm Yeah, so the bills have crossed over. The House bills that were passed by the House went over to the Senate, and the Senate bills that were passed by the House went over, or the Senate bills that were passed by the Senate went to the House. There we go. So that's where those bills are right now. Um, this week and next, we will see, the Senate continue to consider and push through and pass those House bills, and we'll see the House continue to do the same with the Senate bills, and then close to the end of the month, we'll see those bills go back to the original chamber. And if changes were made during that crossover time by the opposite chamber, the original chamber gets the chance to sign off and say, like, yes, we're okay with those changes. If not, then they can continue sort of making those adjustments. Um, but that's kind of where we are right now. Is we've got things that are still crossed over in the opposite chamber that are moving through.
And as we come across each bill, the handy graphic. Again, your graphics work is amazing on MADVoters.org. You've got
Thank
great
you.
cards for every bill with where you
Yeah.
stand on it and what you can do to contact your legislator.
Mhm.
Well, let's start off, dig into some of these, and
Mhm.
we're going to start with some good news, I
Yes.
understand. Yay.
We do have
So,
some good
listen, I
news
see a
to
thumbs
share.
down, so that's
Yes.
a bad bill. So, if a bad bill with a thumbs down is good news, that means it's not going forward.
That's what it seems like right now. So 1333 was one that really just blew up over the last few days. It passed the House 56 to 43, which is pretty close. Typically because the House has 70 Republicans and just 30 Democrats, we typically see closer to a 70-30 split if it's a controversial bill.
Mhm.
Most of the Republicans tend to pack together, most of the Democrats tend to pack together. But 56 to 43 shows you had a significant amount of Republicans voting no, but it just wasn't enough to stop the bill then. And what it would have done, well, there was a provision in the bill that was going to overrule local control and basically say big industrial projects like data centers could go forward on brownfields, which is like agricultural land that isn't really suitable for farming. Um, but
Yeah, there's
without
like
the local,
USDA grades of the soil and the stuff. I sort of
yeah, with
read
like
into it a
soil and
little
stuff.
bit.
But
It's yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's
very
like
technical, but yeah.
you're cutting out the community's voice and control there. So people really got upset about that. So then we saw the lawmakers, the bill authors, and even those who had voted for it, kind of walking back, like, "Oh well, we knew it was a bad bill, but we passed it over to the Senate because the Senate said they'll amend it." It's like that's
I always
not
love that one. That's
no. That's not how we do this. Well, I mean, they do have, unfortunately, a track record of sometimes passing through bad bills out of committee to say, well, we want it to have a chance on the floor. But that's just not good governance. I mean, once the House passed it, it was out of their hands. I mean, what if the Senate said, "Nah, we're not going to amend it. You guys passed it. We'll pass it as is." You can't go
I
back
let
and
the
say, "Take
dragon
back,
through the
sorry."
gate. I thought the next guy at the next gate was
Yeah.
gonna take care of the dragon.
Just like excuses. They blamed, well, it was a short session. Whose fault was that, guys?
You
Who
knew
wanted
what the calendar was going in.
Yes, you guys wanted the shorter session because you tried to have the redistricting push through, so, I mean, here we are. So, there's no excuses. Anyway, people were very upset. The bill author and the people who voted for it are walking it back, and so, we've heard reports, they're going to take that language out. That part of the bill is not moving forward. We've even heard some reports that the bill may not even move forward as is. It's not officially dead yet, but we can feel confident in saying that this portion with the data centers and the permitted use, that's not moving forward. So that's good news.
Okay, so just that part's dead. So the bill still alive? Is it a
Technically,
language that's
yeah, it
dead
hasn't
thing or
it hasn't been withdrawn yet. I will, we'll check the website again on Monday and see if it's crossed out. Because if you look at like the full list of bills on the Indiana General Assembly website, it'll tell you which bills are inactive and which ones are not. That one's still up. Um, So it could be that they're going to, amend out that provision and then continue moving forward with the bill, or they may just let it die and not move it forward. Right now, it's just sitting in the committee over in the Senate. So it really is
All
up to
right.
the
Well,
Senate Utilities Committee if they're going to bring it up, and then they'll decide what they do with it. Certainly something, folks can continue to reach out about. The contact information is listed there on the screen. It's going to the Utilities Committee over there.
and that's a thing that we've talked about before
Mhm.
that you brought up, that like whenever the language goes away, you always got to watch out that it doesn't
Mm.
pop back up somewhere else. They have these zombie bills
Yeah,
and whatnot. Now the next one, however, is dead. It is grayed out on the website. This is
it's
the Ten
dead.
Commandments bill. Good. This thing had no business even being debated.
Yeah,
The First Amendment is the First Amendment for a reason. But tell us a little bit
right.
about this thing and what happened to it.
Yeah. So the Ten Commandments, at first they wanted to require schools to post it. Then they said, well, we can just make it optional, like if a teacher administrator wants to hang it up, but they can't read it out loud. And then it just didn't hit the third reading deadline. It wasn't voted on by the House, so it died before crossover. Um, of course, we want to be vigilant that that doesn't get inserted into another bill as an amendment. That has happened before. But the bill itself for the Ten Commandments is dead, and we will just continue monitoring that they don't sneak it in somewhere else.
Yeah, well, yeah. So did it? I hopefully it died of natural causes because thou shalt not kill. I think that's one of the Ten Commandments. Yeah, along those same lines, the next one is about the death penalty
Yes.
and various execution methods. Some of these guys really like to debate new and novel ways to execute folks,
Right.
but this one wound up not going where as well.
An A plus on the transition there, Scott. That was
Thank you.
that
Thank
was
you.
really well done. Okay, yeah. So death penalty is legal in Indiana. The bill wouldn't have adjusted that. It just would have adjusted the methods and would have authorized death penalty using firing squad or nitrogen gas. That bill also died with the House. They actually voted on it, and it died 48-47. But it needs constitutional majority. So even though it won with the majority of those present, the constitutional majority is 51 in the House. It has to be over half of all the members, not just who's there. So it was close. I
That's
mean,
not anything special about this bill, right? That's all bills have to have at least
yeah, they have to have that
51.
constitutional majority. So it was close, but it did not pass through. So that one's dead. I mean, that's a pretty significant provision. I wouldn't think that would come back as an amendment. It certainly could, um,
Yeah.
but I
Who
would say that
knows?
one's probably dead, and will stay dead.
Well,
There's always
thankfully,
next year.
yes.
I mean, we'll continue.
These things do seem to keep coming back up,
Hmm.
don't
Oh yeah,
they?
yeah. I mean,
Well, yeah.
there's bills that we had last year. I mean, this next one we're going to talk about was one that was last year, and SB 76 deals with immigration,
Yes.
and
Oop,
there was a lot of drama
first one.
with our attorney general and Senator Liz Brown, a Republican, and she, rejected a bill that he really wanted last year, and so he's been she's been on his bad list for a while. Well, then she
Hmm.
refiled the bill, and here we are now with an even worse version of the bill than we had last year.
Yeah,
Like
so
last week,
there's
it's
some
worse.
scary stuff in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so this bill, I understand it mandates that Indiana law enforcement, public schools, universities, and local governments
Mhm.
must cooperate with federal immigration
Yeah.
authorities and agencies, including ICE.
Yeah.
And there's some mentions of fines and whatnot. But like, what do they mean by cooperate? That's vague.
Yeah. I mean, like anything from stand down, and let ICE come into the classroom to take students out, to, helping carry out their orders. Um, so I mean, there's numerous issues with this bill. So first off, you're overruling local control and you're weaponizing local governments, local cities, local police forces to do your bidding. Um, so we're losing that check that we kind of had against this increasingly authoritarian federal regime. They'll now be mandated to basically help them. And so then you're also weaponizing your local community's law enforcement. I think, we saw in Minnesota how the local police would come and stand with the protesters and protect those folks against the ICE agents who were completely violating, people's First Amendment rights to protest, to gather, to speak. This bill kind of ties the hands of that local law enforcement and mandates that they help, or that they just, sort of stand out of the way. And they're holding a $10,000 fine, against them for every violation or every alleged violation. So that definitely will, impact some of those smaller governments. $10,000 is a lot of money for a small school corporation or, local police force. And they can be sued for that if the attorney general feels like they got in the way of ICE. It also, is increasing like surveillance of our immigrant communities, and it's weaponizing public programs that will help immigrant communities. It requires them to submit more data and more reporting on who's using those services, who's coming to them for, for food or clothing or whatever services they need. And is asking, well, how many of those people are citizens versus how many are immigrants. It doesn't matter, paperwork doesn't matter when you're hungry or needing to be clothed. It doesn't matter if you have, your citizenship or not. Like, those are just basic needs. And we've got organizations out there that are trying to meet those needs. And now they're going to sort of be weaponized to track down people's citizenship status if this bill goes forward. So it's a very predatory bill that doesn't really seek to fix anything. One other provision in the bill is it's supposed to penalize employers if they knowingly hire undocumented people. But looking at the amendments, there are 29 filed for the bill.
Wow.
Some of those amendments are taking out that language of penalizing employers. So it really, you ask yourself, then what is the point of the bill? If we're here to penalize businesses who are hiring undocumented immigrants, but then you take that out. And if you say, well, ICE is only going after the criminals and the violent people, well, then why in the world do you need to be going into the schools?
Right.
They're not hiding in the schools. So it really is just such a bad faith bill. And it's one that it is scheduled for Monday, for tomorrow. The House is going to go through those amendments. Many of those amendments are Democrat filed. They're trying to make the bill less bad.
Yes. Sand off the rough edges.
That's the way to put
it. You can't sand the rough edges off a saw blade.
Right.
But
the issue is like I said, with that super majority, 70 of those 100 are Republicans. So you would have to have a significant majority or significant amount break off from their party to oppose them. So it's definitely an uphill battle. But we want folks to speak out because we've had uphill battles before with redistricting, and we defeated that. And something else to remember, if this bill passes, if the amendments go through Monday, it can be up for a vote as soon as Tuesday. It will probably, be within the next few days that they do vote for it, or they will put the vote up for it. And if it passes, it still needs to go back to the Senate because they've made adjustments. So the Senate has another chance to say, yes, we're okay with the changes you made, which made the bill worse.
Yeah. Hey,
or
Katie,
they can go back.
Sorry. I have a question in the chat that's kind of along these, that has to do with this bill. And this is Sandra from Fuerza Unida. Do we need to ask the public to call their state reps?
I would, yeah. I mean, at this point, that is absolutely the person you want to call because it is in the House. They're the ones who are going to be debating it tomorrow and then potentially passing it Tuesday. So yeah, call your rep. It'll go back to the Senate. So you can call your senator too, and you can say, again, please vote no, because there'll be another attempt there. No public hearing though on the Senate side since that's already passed. But here's the thing.
Sandra, I'm terrible. I'm so sorry for my terrible pronunciation, by the way.
But you tried,
I did. So hey, let's talk about this now. This next one, we talked about some of the flagrant constitutional violations
Mhm.
that ICE was taking part in Minnesota. Well, let's talk about a bill that seeks to amend the Indiana Constitution.
Yeah, so there's kind of a whole set of bills. They're wanting to adjust how bail is granted. And so there's a bill that, says here's the language we'll use. There's a bill that says here's how the Constitution would be amended. Then there's like the bill providing for the ability to change, the vehicle of it. So they kind of all go together. So these are moving through, have a committee hearing tomorrow. Basically, it would allow a judge to deny someone's bail if they determine that the suspect has like a substantial risk to the community. The concern with that, is leading to higher pretrial detention. Before someone has actually been found guilty, potentially overcrowding our jails without providing like a funding mechanism to offset that. So that is something that's moving through. That does have a committee hearing tomorrow morning. We've got on the bill tracker, and you can also see on the screen, contact people for that, your state representatives, and then like the committee chairs, and you can certainly send comments there as well. So that's up. We do have a couple good bills as well tomorrow.
Yes, yes. Let's talk about those.
Yeah, 1036.
Hey, look at that. That's a green thumbs up. We love to
There
see
you
them.
go. There's a few of them. 1036 and 1307. Those are good, good bills. They deal with DCS, kind of just improving processes, improving transparency, mandating some assessments be done for kiddos who are in vulnerable situations so that they don't fall through the cracks. So committee hearing on those Monday morning. Always a great idea, even if it's a good bill, to call and say, hey, I like this bill. I support this bill. I don't want to see this bill fall through the cracks.
Yeah, the legislators don't probably get enough, hey,
No,
this
they
is a
don't.
good thing
They
calls.
don't. Yeah.
Even
It's
when they're
good.
doing the good work. Yeah,
Mhm.
the negative stuff sticks out more.
It
There's
does.
definitely more a sense of urgency, I
Mhm.
believe,
Yeah.
along with those negative bills for sure. So yes, definitely give your legislators the occasional slap on the back and say, good game,
Yeah.
So that's
Absolutely.
Monday, huh?
That's on Monday. Yep.
All
Yep.
right. So let's move
Uh,
on. Let's look at Tuesday, and
mhm.
we've got another good one, if I understand.
Yes, this one's great. Really good. And here's the thing. Excuse me. So, like I said, the schedules change every day. So, what we talk about here on Tuesday, there will be more that may get added to this after Monday. We'll go through, and some of those bills that had committee hearings, if they pass the committee, then they'll be on the Tuesday schedule now. So this list will just get longer, but we are really excited about SB 91. This is redoing the syringe exchange program. It's got like a 10-year contract, and it's running out this year. If it expires, then that program lapses, and this is something that has helped reduce the spread of HIV and hepatitis. That's something that's devastated a lot of our communities, especially rural communities, especially some of our southern counties in Indiana, like Scott County. So this program has helped improve healthcare, and for the most part, the Senate supported it. It's over in the House now. We did have some senators who didn't. Unfortunately, they're not drawing on actual data when they oppose it. Some of them said, "Well, this is just going to encourage drug use," which is not accurate. It doesn't.
Yeah,
Um,
we've got data on this.
exactly. Look at the data, but unfortunately, some of those legislators, you could bring them data and evidence and until you're blue in the face, and they're just going to, vote the way that their assumptions lead them. But for the most part, it passed, passed committee, passed the Senate. We hope that it, continues that forward momentum in the House. But that is one I would encourage folks to show their support. That is something we would hate to see fall through and expire. Public testimony will be permitted at that one, at the committee hearing Tuesday morning. You can go to the bill tracker and see exactly what time, what room that'll be in. And you can sign up to testify in person, or you can also send us your testimony and we can forward it on to the committee members if that's easier.
Okay, very good. Now this next one, I said when I read this, how is this not already illegal?
Yeah, it is one of those like what. What? Yeah. Basically, is dealing with consent of pelvic, prostate, rectal examinations on unconscious patients. Short of there being, some sort of emergency situation, this is mandating that health practitioners cannot perform those examinations without consent. Seems like an easy slam dunk, one to support, one to move forward for. Don't anticipate any problems on that passing through. But again, a good one to call and say, hey, I support this. I appreciate you taking the time to put it on the schedule.
If this thing gets a full vote, I wanna know who the no's are.
Right? Yeah. Red flag. Red flag. Who votes no against this? Yeah.
So,
Well, because it
here,
was filed last year. The bill was filed last year, and I don't think it went anywhere. This year they have a Republican author or co-authors, I forget, on it, because sometimes just that's the reality of a supermajority is usually the minority party's bills just get shelved and the majority party's bills are the ones that get forwarded. So yeah, we've seen it before and it didn't move. Hopefully
I
it
guess
doesn't.
even like good stuff, there's only so many bills you can pass. We gotta really service our culture war slop. We don't have time to actually help people over here.
Yes. And you can see, on our bill tracker, we didn't take off the bills that are dead. You can go on there and you can see them. There's a little checkbox. You can like turn it off or on if you don't want to see all of them and like have to filter through. But yeah, we started out tracking like 150 bills. So you can see, what could have been the good bills. And then you can also see some of the terrible bills that, knock on wood, died. And hopefully those don't come back. But yeah, we do see a lot of great bills filed every year and they just don't go anywhere. So thankfully, this
well, here's another thumbs up, for example, and this is Senate Bill 225, which increases the oversight of hospital business practices specifically.
There's a couple. There's a Senate bill and a House bill dealing with like protecting patients from aggressive medical debt collection. These are great bills that are moving forward. The Senate bill here has a committee hearing on Tuesday. Now, they already did the public comments last week. So this week, they're just going to vote. So there won't be public comments available for this one. But still, contact your representative. It's over there in the House right now and let them know you support it. But just be aware you're not going to be able to like go to the Statehouse and talk about why you want this bill. They're not doing the public comments. But yeah, I mean,
shouldn't they have public comments for everything? I don't know.
I wish, right? I mean, it really is. You get minimal notice. Oftentimes you're limited to 30 seconds, but even sometimes 90 seconds. Senator Rotz in the Education Committee last week limited comments to 90 seconds. I mean, you had people who drove hours, sat for hours, waiting for that bill to be called up to testify, only to be told right before oh, you have 90 seconds.
That's crazy.
How is that democracy? When you're just basically patronizing people and saying, yeah, okay, we just have to check a box. We have to let the public comment, but they're obviously not listening. It's very frustrating and just goes back to how excited we are to see that these races are contested, because when they're not, you get this culture of complacency. The lawmakers don't feel like they really need to pay attention to what people want because they'll just get voted in anyway, regardless, because there's no competition. Well, that's ending this year.
Oh yeah,
everyone's going to be competing.
Well, yeah, it's like they don't care. They don't really work for the voters. They work for the people that pay them big money. And along those lines, there is another bill that we're supporting that would ban bribes to public officials. This is another one. Boy, you'd think that'd have been illegal already.
Right. Well, there's like a loophole. You were telling me earlier, kind of dealing with, there was like a Supreme Court case.
There was a Supreme Court case in 2024, the U.S. Supreme Court called Snyder versus the United States, where the former mayor of Portage, Indiana, was basically found not to have taken a bribe because there wasn't like an explicit quid pro quo. It was a gratuity. It was a tip. It's not a bribe. It's a tip.
Mm-hmm. Like, no, it's a bribe. But yes, now they're specifically calling out, in the bill, gratuities. You cannot tip your legislators, wink, wink, tip for bills. So
does this go hand in hand with the no tax on tips? The thing, you don't have to pay taxes on your bribes either.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. I will say, not to throw a wrench in things, but one thing we should mention here when we talk about like accountability for elected officials is how unfortunate it was that Mitch Gore's bill to mandate that elected officials could not drive around in luxury vehicles. What a bummer that that one died. So, like on the deadline this last week, that bill should have been scheduled for a vote, and it just wasn't brought up. And Representative Gore said, "What about my bill?" And they were like, "We pulled it."
What bill? You had a bill? What bill? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was again famously because both I want to say Michael Beckwith and Diego Morales spent like somewhere around
Mhm,
$90,000 for
mhm.
like the luxury edition of their state vehicles,
Yeah.
and that bill would have mandated that you got to get the base model. You can't go splurging for the heated seats and the self driving on state money.
And which just like, I mean, who would disagree with that? I mean, that's a bill that Republicans and Democrats and people who aren't paying attention politically, everyone I think would agree with that. So that was just really frustrating. Like, what a loss for some good government transparency there that was blocked by Statehouse officials. Um, because it passed out of committee, I think unanimously, if I remember. Would have had a great shot, I think, at passing and becoming law.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'd think, but
So it's good
priorities,
that we're not
right?
going to, tip our elected officials, but it's just frustrating that they're going to continue to be allowed to buy luxury cars, brand new luxury cars on taxpayers'
Yeah,
dime.
listen, they work hard. They need that leather trim as a treat. Uh, so let's look at the next one here. Again, another bill we're supporting. This is
Mhm.
regarding childcare, which has
Mhm.
been it's a huge problem. Our childcare situation in this state is a disaster.
Yes.
This would seek
This,
to fix it, maybe at least a little bit.
it's fixing part of the problem. It's not fixing the child care vouchers, the CCDF, which was funding was cut to that. It's basically making some adjustments behind the scenes, like on the books of things, expanding the child care expenditure credit, basically incentivizing businesses to provide child care benefits. Does it increase pay wages for childcare workers? No. And I think that that needs to happen. Does it fund CCDF? No. And I think that needs to happen too. It's a systemic issue that has been brought about because of bad policy. This is something that can help it. It's not going to fix it completely, but it's a good step in the right direction. Um, and so it's going to allow for TIF, the tax increment financing revenue,
Mhm.
to be used to help construct or expand childcare facilities. Um, so it'll help, attract businesses. It'll help attract employees. It's a good first step, but
So is
definitely
that
going up the ceiling.
if I may, Katie, I'm sorry. TIFs are often used to like I think I'm thinking of like the downtown like convention center sort of stuff. Isn't that kind of like what they're normally done to stuff that will attract
Yeah.
businesses and childcare will attract
Yeah, it's like
businesses.
infrastructure. Yeah, it's usually,
Yeah.
for financing infrastructure. Well, childcare is infrastructure, it's not a building per se. Well, I guess building the childcare facility, there's the building of it. But yeah, it's that idea of, if you want people to come to the community, if you want people to work in your community, you need to make it a community that people want to live in. And childcare is a huge burden and barrier for folks not having it. So this is a great step in the first is great step in the direction we need to be going.
All right. So let's talk about something now that is not a
Mhm.
great
Yeah,
step.
no, it's bad.
Something that is actually quite close to a goose step, and that is Mike Braun's military police bill here, number 1343.
Uh-huh. Um, so
This one I understand is mostly out of MADVoters
perfect. Here
scope,
we go. Yep.
but there is a clause in this
Mhm.
bill that is particularly concerning.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this one is we're concerned about lots of organizations, civil rights organizations are also concerned about this bill, and it is going to be up for committee hearing on Tuesday morning. Public testimony will be allowed. So if you oppose the National Guard getting police powers, the committee would like to hear from you on
Yes.
Tuesday. Um, it really raises the concern if we are expanding the militarization of police and expanding police powers, what does that mean about our civil liberties? And again, we talked about Minnesota already on the call. But if we're starting to weaponize the military against citizens, or using the military to encroach on people's civil rights, that is very upsetting and frightening. And we do see the National Guard in Minnesota. I mean, they were put out there, to help the protesters. So to think that they could, then be manipulated in a different way, by our governor, take those away is terrifying.
Did you say that this has got there is a public hearing with testimony permitted Tuesday? Is that correct? That is Janet in the chat over there asking.
Yep. HB 1343. Yep, that is up for the committee hearing, and I can tell you what room it'll be in. Room 233, 9 a.m. You'll need to get there early to sign in. And you'll be limited to probably 3 minutes, if that. Just a friendly reminder, your comments when you testify are considered part of public record. So be firm and assertive, but be productive, be additive to the conversation.
Have it ready, prepare your statement. You've only got so much time. You don't want to stumble and have to make it up as you go.
Right. And it's not the forum, to go in and yell and be mad. And I mean, yes, be mad. That's absolutely fine. We understand that. But be additive to the conversation. The chairperson has all the power in the room. They can ask you to leave. They can disregard your testimony. And people have a lot of really good things to say about why this is a bad bill. So, take your time to craft a statement and go in and give it. And
Katie, you guys have resources for that if folks need help crafting statements regarding certain bills, resources on madvoters.org.
Yep, absolutely. Our website has it. Our socials have it. We've got tips for testifying. The most important thing I think that we want to say at MADVoters is go, be yourself, give a good statement. Lawmakers hear from organizations and spokespeople a lot, but they don't always hear from just regular everyday people. And I know you have to take time off work or have to arrange childcare. It's hard. But if you can get down there and address them, it is very valuable. And if you can't, you can send us your comments, and that's linked on our website, and we can pass the testimony over to them as well. But just, taking a few moments just to send an email or make a phone call really does help make a difference.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. So that covers Tuesday. A lot. Busy day lined up Tuesday at the Statehouse. Wednesday
and
also
keep in mind,
busy.
Well, if SB 76, the immigration bill, passes or gets, if the amendments go through and they move all that along, then it'll be on the schedule Tuesday as well, for the full House vote.
Potentially even busier. And then we're going to go through some Wednesday bills here. Wednesday is lining up to be busy. Those things that they didn't get to Monday or Tuesday, those could also be happening.
Yes, and Wednesday is always super busy because that's the committee hearing day. The committees meet every day, but committee is the heavy committee day. So lots of bills will be up for committee hearing. Again, opportunity for public comments on most of those. A few that maybe, if they were already heard, last week, they won't do a hearing again. They'll just vote on it. But this is one, 1423.
Yeah, the 1423. Let's talk about that one. Committee hearing for this one on Wednesday afternoon. No public testimony for this one. This is, we've been tracking this one for months and months. This is codifying the takeover, the hostile takeover of Indianapolis public schools, essentially by private forces.
This was one, they had hours of testimony last week against it. And so on Wednesday afternoon, what they'll do is if any of the committee members have amendments to offer, they'll amend it and then they'll vote. But they won't permit the public to speak again. It's basically transferring a lot of the decision-making authority away from IPS's elected school board and giving it to an all-appointed brand new board. So we're also injecting another layer of bureaucracy to it. So this board is heavily representative of charter school interests. Those are schools that they say, well, they're public, we take everyone. It's like, yeah, but you guys don't have public boards. They're run by private boards and private companies. So it's a little different in terms of transparency and accountability. The other thing too is as I was watching the live stream, why not? Because the whole idea was this was they wanted to have some sort of entity that could figure out how to transport all the kids who go to the Indianapolis schools, the charter schools, the public schools.
Mm-hmm.
How can we get bus routes out for those kids? Because that's been a huge issue. And so the problem is we're now using kids, students as, political points. And that's really frustrating. At the end of the day, we want kids to be able to get to their schools, no matter where they're going. And yet the question is, well, then why do we need to create a whole new board? Why do we need to have a whole nother layer of bureaucracy paid? That's a lot of money.
Aren't they? They're attempting to fix a problem that they themselves created. It's like, hey, we had a unified school system that had their transportation figured out. Then you balkanized it, and now you have to rejigger something else.
Yeah.
But you got to make sure you're taking care of your school, quote unquote school choice profiteers in the process.
Right. I mean, let the IPS schools manage it. I mean, they're the ones that have been in this community for the longest time. Why not provide them with the resources to help expand transportation options instead of creating a whole new board? But kind of like you said, that wouldn't represent the charter and the pro-privatization crowd. So that's something that we've seen getting pushed through despite significant community pushback.
Along those lines, right? So it's more charter school bills as our next one. And if I'm just looking at Wednesday's schedule, it's like they decided to brand it War on Public Education Wednesday. And
there's a
Bill
bunch
239. Same sort of thing here. Now, this one, however, there is public testimony allowed this coming Wednesday morning. Yeah.
Yep, SB 239. That is one that is creating additional. Did we skip 88?
No, I flipped. Did I skip 88? I did skip 88.
It doesn't matter. Which one do you want to do first?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do 239 first because my transition about charter schools worked there, and then we'll come back to 88.
That's perfect. Yeah. So 239 is creating additional pathways to convert public schools to charter schools. So basically getting the elected local school board to hand over control of the school over to the charter school and have a private board. So concerned about the ramifications of that. The charter schools do not have the same level of accountability and transparency as a traditional public school. And there's also that disturbing history of fraud and misuse of tax dollars, millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, of fraud. I think it makes sense to say those issues need to get buttoned up before we go on and make more charter schools. But unfortunately, those keep getting blocked. There's been amendments, put forth like, we can't have more charter schools here, guys, until we start fixing what's broken. And those amendments keep getting passed over. It's very frustrating.
Am I nuts? Or is Senate Bill 1 this session all about rooting out fraud in our, social safety net programs? And then Governor Braun this week had some conference, or I don't know if it was a conference or he gave an interview or something, but he was talking about his anti-fraud bona fides, right? And putting some other policies in place. And yet these folks go to the mat for charter schools where there is a proven history of fraud.
Right. It's like, I think they've forgotten what waste, fraud, and abuse actually mean. They're just using these words, and it's like from The Princess Bride. I don't think those words mean what you think they mean. Like, it just...
Right.
Like school choice, that's a euphemism. Okay, the school gets to choose. It's not parents choosing, it's taking away choices. It's defunding, choices. It's what's that phrase from 1984? Doublespeak?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or yeah. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since I read 1984. So, here, here's some Orwellian language, but back in Senate Bill 88, right? There
Yes.
it talks about children being good citizens, right? Obeying Big Brother.
This one was weird. It was weird to watch. When it was back in the Senate, I was watching the live stream. This is going to be the first time here on Wednesday that it comes before this House. Sorry. Back when it was in the Senate, they were discussing it and they were asking the bill author questions, and he was struggling. And you could tell this is not a bill that anyone in Indiana has asked for. This is a bill that he got from Heritage Foundation, ALEC, whatever, conservative think tank, and just is repackaging it here for Indiana. One part of the bill says that the CLT exam, which is the classic learning test, it's very popular with homeschool students, private school, like religious private schools.
Yeah.
But it has been proven to have kind of a conservative or religious bias.
Listen, we need a test to prove that we're actually teaching our kids things because they can't pass the SAT or the ACT.
Right. And this CLT lacks,
like.
there's not data against it. Like we've got data to see how the Indiana academic standards line up with the SAT and ACT. You can kind of extrapolate.
They have problems of their own. Let's not,
for sure. Yeah. But we do have data there showing, okay, if a kid's performing, this well on this, standardized assessment, then we can anticipate this from the SAT or ACT. We don't have that on the CLT. It's kind of a homegrown private assessment. Senator Andrea Hunley had a great amendment, let's require some data collecting before we say, hey, colleges, you have to allow students who have taken the CLT, you have to admit them if, they get a certain score. But it's just, that's not data informed.
You got to accept me. I got 100% on the super awesome my mom made it up for me test.
That's kind of what it feels like. Yeah. And so, there was a moment Senator Hunley, said, can you tell us, bill author, Senator Byrne, what does the CLT measure? What does this test for? And it was just like, did the screen freeze? Like, he didn't know. So he, fumbled through his paperwork and looked, and then he just ended up reading the blurb on the website.
Oh, God.
But I mean, that's, obviously this was not a bill that he drafted or that anyone in Indiana wanted. It was something that it's just, let me see, what's Project 2025? Check, let's do this. So that's problem. And then the other issue in the bill is it talks about good citizenship instruction. And there's already a long list in Indiana code of things that schools have to teach to be a good citizen. This one adds waiting until marriage to have children. And they kept saying
yes.
no, it's the success sequence. It's the success sequence. And it's like, well, who came up with the success sequence? And it's like some conservative think tank. Okay, that's from the crew that spent a lot of time telling us, we don't want to talk about personal values at school. Let's do reading, writing, arithmetic. Now we're talking about, you have to be married before you have kids. And then, okay, so then one of the amendments was, okay, can we teach our kids comprehensive sex ed? No.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, well, you want to teach about waiting until marriage to have children, but you don't want to equip our children with the knowledge they need to make that decision. So just, it's a weird bill that is not well thought out. Just doesn't help.
Yeah.
And just, is going to shame a lot of those kids. What happens if you have a kid sitting in the class who, came from, a family where the parents aren't married? Or what if, that kiddo's got a sibling who's pregnant right now, we're just shaming kids. You're not a good citizen because you had kids before you were married. Just not something that belongs in public school instruction.
Well, yeah, you know what else doesn't belong in public school instruction is Turning Point USA. And now I understand here, this is Senate Bill 200. So we already have certain, quote unquote, youth patriotic organizations that are already allowed in school, like the Future Farmers of America and the Boy Scouts, and the Girl Scouts,
Mhm.
and okay, that's fine, I guess. Those, I mean, well, listen, they have their own histories too, some of those
Sure,
organizations,
yeah.
but this one is a potential a way in the door
Mhm.
for overtly right-wing political organizations like Turning Point to get their claws into public school
Yes.
students.
So I will say off the top, this is, I don't want to say speculative, because I think we've got some pretty good evidence to suggest what's happening, but I will say right now, schools are not mandated to work with Turning Point. In March, Governor Braun is going to announce that there's going to be some sort of partnership with Indiana schools and Turning Point. And there's a link there on the bill tracker that you can open up and read at your leisure. We don't exactly know what that partnership is going to look like. Oftentimes, the school needs like a faculty staff member to like sponsor it, or it needs kids, to ask for it. But one concern we have, just looking at the writing on the wall, those patriotic youth organizations that you mentioned, the schools have to allow them to come in and present to the kids. Um, that is a federal law, and there's a whole list of organizations. It's called Title 36, of these organizations that have that right. Would Congress pass a bill to consider Turning Point USA a patriotic youth organization and allow them in the door and mandate that schools allow them the opportunity to come and talk to their students? Yeah, that's my fear. I
I
think
mean,
that's
that
exactly
sounds
where
like
we're
something Mike
heading.
Johnson would totally do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where we're heading. The in that article that's linked, there's some quotes from I think Texas's governor saying, we're going to put the full force of the law behind making schools partner with Turning Point. There will be intense legal consequences if they try to block it. And I think this bill is probably providing a mechanism for those consequences. Whether that's a funding reduction or an loss of accreditation. We don't fully know, but I think that this bill is probably laying down a pathway to do just that. So it is one I think to watch. It is one to be aware of. Certainly, one to contact your representative about because it's over in the House. And if you want, even come to the committee hearing on Wednesday. You can watch. You can't speak at this one. They already did the hearing again last week, but they will vote. Or you can just watch the live stream. It's going to be one I think to watch on the IGA website and see what they have to say about this bill. But I'm pretty sure, our team is pretty sure that that's kind of the intent of this bill. It's just providing a pathway for these right-wing organizations to shoehorn into public schools.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know. Is there anything good that our legislators are doing for kids this
Yeah,
session?
yeah. I mean, SB 15, it requires DCS to create a foster youth Bill of Rights statement. It's a statement. It's not necessarily, like fixing XYZ problem, facing foster youth. But it is outlining the Bill of Rights statement. So that's, a nice thing that they're putting out there. Good, solid bipartisan bill there. So that one's up for a committee hearing, public testimony on that one. Hopefully that one sails right through. It's a good bill. Just of course,
And then how about another good bill?
that one, yeah, like that
Moving
Senate bill that deals with hospitals and debt relief. 1335 is kind of similar. It's increasing a little bit more oversight and accountability for nonprofit hospitals. It does require some proactive informing for patients, proactively telling them like their financial assistance options. So it can kind of help with some debt relief potentially, or managing debt, I should say.
what
They will do
are
public testimony.
what are what makes a profit a hospital a nonprofit hospital? Because I'm thinking of like your big state universities hospitals like IU Health, for example. Let me
Mhm,
guess, they're probably technically a nonprofit, but
mhm,
boy, they're always building some brand new big building. They're
mhm.
always so many administrators that are probably completely unnecessary, making
That's
hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, passing that cost on to consumers. So
Yeah, there's
there
kind
might
of
be.
a loophole there, sort of exploiting that nonprofit. So this bill is going to require that they provide, some sort of benefit to the community that is exceeding the value of their tax exemptions. So, like, okay, if you're getting tax exemptions, you have to put out into the community, this dollar amount of community benefit. You have to give back. So that one, seems like a bill that is, could help, that could improve things. But, I'd be remiss to say if, you know, this is just part of the puzzle. When we have legislators passing bad policies that discourage doctors from practicing in Indiana, the abortion ban, or SB 236, the ban on abortion pills that, will allow citizens to be a bounty hunter against people who are trying to acquire abortion pills. You
Oh
know,
god, we don't even have that one on the list
it's
today.
not on there. No, it's not dead. It's not scheduled. It's just sort of in limbo. So just one to remember. And it may
Okay.
appear on the schedule. It's just not on there.
Limbo is better than where it was headed, so
Yeah.
I guess we'll
And
yeah.
again, it just may not have dropped yet, on the schedule. But I mean, those are things that are impacting our healthcare. So yeah, I mean, it's great to, try and hold hospital systems accountable or improve, you know, debt notices for patients, but we also have got to stop the culture war on our physicians, or we're not going to have any doctors. And we also have to look, at federally, the big business, or the big beautiful bill. I mean, cutting funding for hospitals. Johnson Memorial just announced they're cutting out their OBGYN department. That's where my first son was born. Um,
Oh man,
you
yeah,
know,
that's
and
a bummer.
that's going to be gone soon. And they cited, in that announcement, a reduction in funding. That is coming from the federal, the state, not reimbursing for Medicaid rates, at a workable amount. Um, those are some systemic problems that also need to be dealt with. And those are policies that have been passed by this same legislature who's now saying, look, we're helping make healthcare more affordable. Well, you also kind of broke it in the first place. And so there needs to be some accountability there too. And that again circles back to the top of the hour when we said all these folks running for office. I think that is going to be a really good conversation, and getting some really good competition.
Yeah, well,
That's what it's about.
and again, yeah, hopefully getting some people in there that actually work for the people and not for the big donors. We were talking about this morning too. Not working for the Epstein class, right?
Yes.
And here, the final one we're going to cover today is a giveaway to
Yeah,
the private equity folks who love to
totally.
pollute our state, and they're off somewhere else, so it doesn't really matter, huh?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the first bills we talked about, the one about the data centers, and that bill died. I mean, that's great, but let's also not forget we had lots of great bills that were going to, you know, add a lot of requirements on data centers and their electricity and water usage. Those didn't get heard. Those died, so that's bad. And then we have SB 277, which is relaxing a lot of the oversight, of our environmental regulation. And so it's making it easier for polluters to pollute. It's less oversight on pollution. So we're not making Indiana healthy again just because we're not measuring, contamination and pollution anymore. We're just now we don't have the data, you know.
If you can't count it, it's not happening, Katie.
Right, and that's kind
What
of
pollution? There is no pollution here. This water is delightful. You can drink straight out of the river.
yes. Like, yeah. So that is, a bill that's got a lot of concern. The committee will vote on it on Wednesday. They already had the hearing. So we'll see if that bill changes, gets amended, anything like that, after Wednesday. Then it will be eligible to go to the full House for consideration and even more amendments potentially. So all these bills are on the move. Nothing's done. Nothing's over yet. They still have to go through and get voted on, get further amended. So all this to say is this is a really important time to hop on our bill tracker and connect with your legislator, your state representative, your state senator, find out who they are, and make some phone calls. You can even call today if you want, because the numbers listed on our bill tracker will take you to their desk, and that's got voicemail set up. So you don't have to just
All
like
right.
rely on the switchboard operator.
Fantastic. Well done. Nice way to land the plane there, Katie. Brought it
Yeah.
all back home. All that information is available at madvoters.org. Please visit there. That will tell you how to get a hold of your particular representatives and senators, or even the committee chairs sometimes.
Yep.
All the information that you need to participate in
Mhm.
democracy while you still can is right there.
Yes, and this will be a big week. Lot of bills on the move. A lot of new schedules that will come as the week progresses. The lawmakers are there at the State House Monday to Thursday, so we'll see things move throughout. We'll see what happens.
And we'll be watching. All right. Katie Rector, Mad Voters Director of Advocacy. Thank you so much for filling us in today.
Thank you
Couldn't
so
do
much
this
for your
without you.
time. No, I appreciate it, Scott. Thank you for the conversation and the platform. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Katie. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thanks. You too. Take care. Bye bye.